Hi there, welcome once again to the Dukascopy TV studio here in Geneva. I'm Ben Jones. Alongside me to discuss some of the more recent developments with sustainable trade is Ulrich Hoffmann. Ulrich, thank you very much for joining us again.
It's a pleasure.
So, can you begin by talking about the ever-increasing role of sustainability standards? There seems to be more and more demand for these sustainable options like the fair trade organisations. So would you say the balance is shifting, and does this pose any risks?
It is indeed the case that in a number of markets these standards have become a license to operate. So these standards dealing with social issues, with environmental issues, animal welfare, with particular safety requirements are of private nature, so they are applied by private firms or by social initiatives, by non-governmental organizations, by local consumer groups, and they are increasingly determining markets. So the market share in some cases has already reached the 20 up to the 40% mark, for example, for sustainable coffee or sustainable cocoa. In fair trade, you have examples like bananas, where the market share oscillates around 15 to 20%. So in these markets, consumers or operators, so marketing companies, are concerned about particular features. And there is an increase in consumer demand for meeting specific requirements, in particular as regards food or some environmental conditions are concerned. And here the problem is that one needs to look at the requirements of these standards at greater length, because some standards are only dealing with a particular problem. For example, in the textile sector, you know this example in Bangladesh, so to have worker safety, some social conditions. But at the other end are complex systemic standards, such as organic agriculture, which in fact go so far to lead to a systemic change in the production form. So all of that needs to be looked at, so you cannot throw all the standards into one big melting pot.
Okay, now what's the situation for a company that isn't certified and doesn't meet the sustainability requirements? Is it becoming the fact that it's all about keeping the consumer happy?
To a certain extent, yes, because you have increasing consumer power, in particular in markets such as food. But also certain consumer products like garments, clothing sector. But for a good number of other supply chains, you also have problems with governments moving too slowly or taking no initiative. And so the companies and the consumers, they want to move ahead, set certain trends, or determine or move the conditions more swiftly. And that is why they are putting pressure on the producers to follow certain conditions set. So if you don't follow the conditions, I'm afraid to say, you are out of the market. So basically it boils down to no market access. And that is why most of the producers try to meet these requirements to a certain extent with the help of their buyers. So there are in the supply chain big companies which usually assist the producers, but there are also programs of non-governmental organizations and partly even certain governments or the donor community which provides lavish support for training, for capacity building, even for improving the infrastructure.
Okay, and finally, looking into the future, do you think that locally produced products will begin to grow even more in demand? And what other demands do you think consumers will make?
Locally produced products are indeed not only a trend which you can observe in a handful of countries. This is particularly prominent in the agriculture sector, so food and agroforestry products. And there is, to a certain extent, a wish of the consumers to source locally, because either they have an interest in the local environment, in the well-being of the local producers, so the development of rural livelihoods, or the landscape shaping, and they also have an interest in the security of the products they are purchasing, because close by producers are generally known to them, or the shop where these products are produced find it easy to get sufficient information on these producers. So in longer supply chains there is a certain anonymity where you don't have that. Last but not least, there's also an argument for a local focus, because for agriculture, for example, one encourages closed nutrient cycles. So where you have what is a fallout of one production process becomes a nutrient based for another one. Think of compost, etc. So all of that is being sort of encouraged by a more local focus. So it's not only product safety, but also the rationale for the production process. But that, I shall say in conclusion, does not apply across the board. So it's particularly prominent in agriculture and in the food sector. And I think it is particularly associated with production forms such as organic agriculture, agroecological forms, or with the reputation of certain typical local products like cheese, dairy.
Fantastic. Ulrich, once again, thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Do make sure you keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV, as we'll be bringing you plenty more updates and exclusive interviews. Bye for now.